Good morning to you all. On the behalf of VR Siddhartha Engineering College, on the occasion of 160th birthday celebrations of Sri Mokshagundam Visvesvaraya Garu, I warmly welcome the dignitaries, our Principal Dr. A.V. Ratnaprasad Garu, Deans, Head of the Departments, faculty, and students. We are here to celebrate the 53rd Engineers Day. On this occasion, I extend my welcome to our chief guest of today's program, Sri A. Robert Gerard Ravi Garu. He is ITS, Deputy Director General of Telecommunications, Ministry of Communications and IT, New Delhi. I extend a warm welcome to you, sir. Miss Sri Mokshagundam Visvesvaraya Garu was a great son of India. Every year, India celebrates the Engineers Day on the birth anniversary of Visvesvaraya Garu by the entire engineering fraternity in India and Sri Lanka and many other countries also. He was India's most prolific civil engineer, dam builder, economist, and statesman who, with his vision, made exceptional contribution to India. Due to his outstanding contribution to the building of India, government conferred Bharat Ratna on him in 1955. He was also awarded the British knighthood by King George V, who put the honorific Sir before his name. We, the Velagapudi Ramakrishna and Siddhartha Engineering College, started celebrating this Engineers Day for about 1.5 decades. The students from our institution and the nearby institutions are invited to exhibit their project models and the innovative ideas. And every year, eminent engineers from different domains has been felicitated every year. A technical model competition exhibition used to be conducted in which the best models were given the prizes also. Even the school children from the nearby schools are invited to watch the models exhibited by the budding engineers. So today we are celebrating 53rd Engineers Day. I welcome Dr. A.V. Ratnaprasad Garu, Principal VR Siddhartha Engineering College, to offer garland to the photo of the great engineer Sri Mokshagundam Visvesvaraya Garu and pay tribute and respect to him. I invite the head of the departments to join the paying the tribute.
చెప్పినాక నేనేం నంబర్స్ కాకుండా నంబర్స్ అని మర్చిపోతుంటా. అది 53rd కదా,
53rd 160th బర్త్డే. మన వాళ్ళు ఎవరైనా లైన్లో
ఉన్నారు.
ఎవరు ఉన్నారు సార్?
ఉన్నారు నాకు తెలియదు. చెప్పేసి పేర్లు
ఒకసారి చెప్పేస్తాను.
ముగ్గురు పేర్లు చెప్పే.
ఇది చెప్పాక మీకు ఇస్తాను. ఇక్కడ
అందరూ వచ్చారు కదండి. ఫోటో ఏం దిగుతారా?
Thank you very much, sir. Every year, we used to conduct this day as a festival with many of the students exhibiting their talent through their hardware models and innovative ideas to be presented on this day. We even earmarked this particular day as Innovation Day. Because of this pandemic situation, we are unable to organize it in real time. So that's why we try to continue this tradition of organizing the Engineers Day through online. And the support of our VR Siddharth Engineering College being the members of Siddharth Academy of General and Technical Education. So I profusely welcome Sri M. Rajay Garu, Vice President, Siddhartha Academy of General and Technical Education, and also convener of our institution. I welcome Sri N. Venkatesh Garu, President, Siddhartha Academy of General and Technical Education. And I even welcome Lakshman Rao Garu, Secretary of the Siddhartha Academy of General and Technical Education. So hope you are all present online, sir, and we expect the wishes from you all. I now welcome Ms. Rupa Devi, Assistant Professor, Department of ECE, to give a brief biodata of the great personality, Sir Sri Mokshagundam Visvesvaraya Garu, the Bharat Ratna of the great India.
A very fine good morning to one and all. I'm highly privileged to give brief biography of Sir Sri Mokshagundam Vishweshwaraya Garu. India celebrates Engineers Day every year on September 15th to mark the birthday of Sir Vishweshwaraya Garu, Bharat Ratna recipient and engineer pioneer of India. Fondly known as Sir MV or the Builder of India, Vishweshwaraya Garu was born on September 15, 1860, that is 160 years ago on this day in Chikkaballapura district of Karnataka. He lived up to 14th April 1962, that is for a period of 102 years. He joined the Science College in Pune to study engineering and ranked first in the LCE and FCE examination in 1883. Vishweshwaraya Garu was a scholar, a builder, a statesman, an educationist, and the most celebrated engineer in India, with his engineering prowess being portrayed in distributing of water resources and construction of dams across India in such an efficient manner that his designs have prevented massive flooding. He had designed and patented a system of automatic wear water floodgates that were first installed in 1903 at Kadakwalsa Reservoir near Pune. These gates were employed to raise flood supply level of storage in the reservoir to the highest level likely to be attained without causing any damage to the dam. Vishweshwaraya Garu gained prominent status when he designed a flood protection system for Hyderabad. He was instrumental in developing a system to protect Vishakhapatnam port from sea erosion. He initiated the construction of Krishnaraja Sagara Dam on the Kaveri River. This dam created the biggest reservoir in Asia when it was built. During his tenure as the Diwan of Mysore, Vishweshwaraya Garu remodeled the state as model state, henceforth given him the status of the father of modern Mysore. After opting for voluntary retirement in 1908, he took a foreign tour to study industrialized nations. After, for a short period, he worked for the Nizam of Hyderabad, India. During November 1909, he was appointed as Chief Engineer of Mysore State. Further, during 1912, he was appointed as Diwan of the princely state of Mysore. He was Diwan for 7 years. He was instrumental in the founding of the Government Engineering College at Bangalore in 1917, one of the first engineering institutes in India. This institute was later named the University Vishweshwaraya College of Engineering. Vishweshwaraya Garu was awarded Bharat Ratna for his exceptional contribution to the building of India in 1955. Besides, he was also awarded the British knighthood by King George V, which prefixes Sir to his name. An engineer is a person who applies their skills and knowledge of the basic science for the good of the society. Happy Engineers Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Rupa, for your brief, very, very brief introduction of biography of the great legendary. May now request our principal, Dr. A.V. Ratnaprasad Garu, to give his message on this occasion.
Honorable Chief Guest of 53rd Engineers Day celebrations organized to commemorate 160th birth anniversary of Sir Mokshagundam Vishweshwaraya, Sri Robert Rao Garu, ITS, Deputy Director General of Ministry of Communications and IT, Department of Communications, New Delhi, the Vice President of the Academy and Convener of this college, Sri M. Raji Garu, Sri P. Lakshman Rao Garu, the Secretary of the Academy, and Sri N. Venkateswara Garu, President of the Academy, who joined online these celebrations. My colleagues heading various departments, faculty members, and my dear beloved students, good morning to everybody. In fact, I am very happy that our students have joined online to witness the great achievements of the legendary engineer Sir Mokshaguna Visvesvaraya online. In fact, we have been celebrating this day to remind the contributions made by the legendary engineer, to recollect the contributions made by him to this modern India. He is also one of the engineers in those days. But if you look at the kind of contributions he has made to this Indian nation, they are uncountable. For example, most of you might have heard about the Krishnarajasagar Dam in the state of Mysore and the Brindavan Gardens he has set up way back in the beginning of 20th century. Whoever go to the state of Karnataka, probably all of them might have visited as a part of their tour this Krishnarajasagar Dam and as well as the Brindavan Gardens, which is located by the side of this dam. It is his innovation in those days. In addition to that, he was involved in developing many flood control systems, the then state of Hyderabad under Nizam's governance, and also the state of Maharashtra, the kind of systems he has designed and implemented to prevent the erosion of Visakhapatnam seaport, and also many other designs he made, developed for the purpose of developing irrigation in this country is enormous. In fact, he is such a genius. Not only a simple engineer, he is such a genius, honest person, highly sincere, and also his memory is amazing. If you look at the biography, at the age of 96, a meeting was going on with the engineers with respect to some of the issues in the state of Karnataka. At that point of time, he instructed one of the servant or attender who is staying nearby, asked him to bring a book, giving the location of the book in the rack of the library. Such a kind of amazing memory power he has got even at the age of 96. You can imagine what kind of person he is. So that is why we need to inculcate and imbibe such kind of great qualities. Probably tomorrow we are all going to become engineers. We'll come out with the degrees from the institution. But what kind of role we have to play? Nobody may not instruct you, may not guide you. But by looking at the personalities like Sir Mokshaguna Visvesvaraya Garu, by going through his biography, we need to inculcate such kind of great qualities. We need to serve the society. We need to serve the society with certain objective of making good service to the government and the people who are living in this country, such that they must remember us forever, such that we must serve this country to make the people of this Indian nation happy with all kinds of services, including health and education. And if you look at the awards he has issued, they are uncountable. Enormous number of awards he has received from many universities across the country. The reason is his unprecedented, unparalleled service he has rendered for this country. If he is a simple government engineer, we would not have conducted this kind of Engineers Day to commemorate his birthday. He is an unparalleled engineer. You will find very, very few across the world such kind of eminent personalities from this engineering fraternity. So that is why we need to inculcate at least some of his great qualities. Tomorrow we join in organization, whatever we like. It may be a private service, it may be a government service, or it may be some other higher education you go. So whenever you inculcate this kind of qualities, automatically it will also make you to be remembered by somebody else. It indicates that you are doing something great over the others, whatever they are doing for the sake of the society, for the sake of industry, for the sake of institution. Wherever you are working, you must always think of making that particular organization grow without any boundaries. You may be in any organization. You may be in any organization. You may be in any service. You must always feel that I must contribute to my maximum potential with sincerity, with honesty, commitment, and dedication. Then only it is possible to bring any organization to a level which is comparable with the best institution, best organization in this world. If you keep that kind of ambition and objective in your mind, it is definitely possible. The best example is, the best role model is Sir Mokshagundam Visvesvaraya Garu. He is also engineer. Nowadays, we used to talk about the College of Engineering Pune has got very good ranking in NIRF or very good awards the college has received. He has obtained his bachelor's degree in engineering in civil engineering way back, probably I think 1884 or so, from the College of Engineering Pune. Now we are calling it as College of Engineering Pune, but in those times it is College of Science Pune. So, and also looking at the contributions he has made, as mentioned by our earlier speakers, the government of India, it is the highest civilian award. They have awarded Bharat Ratna to Sir Mokshagundam Visvesvaraya in the year 1968. So with these few words, I thank Sri Robert Ravi Garu. So yesterday, one of my colleague, Dr. Rajeswara Garu, whenever he approached him, sir, we request you to kindly address our students on the occasion of this Engineers Day. Of course, we have been doing Engineers Day and Innovation Day together for the past few years, but because of this pandemic, and also since there are no students in the campus, we have postponed this Innovation Day on the eve of Abdul Kalam birthday, that is 15th October every year, separating from this event. And we used to exhibit the models developed by our students, and also we used to invite some of the models from outside institutions also, and we used to conduct a competition and award first, second, third prizes, whoever have designed and developed the innovative models. So, of course, he has done such kind of service. Visvesvaraya Garu has done such kind of service in those days where there is no technology. Where there is no technology, no information. He has to only go through the library and read the books. But nowadays, everything is available in our hand. I would like to give a very important suggestion and to all the students. Everything is available in your hand nowadays. You did not go anywhere. Such kind of technology has come into the society. How best you are going to use of the technology for developing solutions to the society is in your hands. So don't pass time. Normally we read papers, we say this is pandemic. Pandemic, we probably, it might not be making us to move out of some place, but it is also making us to get more amount of time to spend on whatever interest you have got. For example, if you spend time on books, you can gain a lot of knowledge. You can become a great person. Great persons are also born like us, but how they have become great? Only with certain kind of commitment and integrity towards this country and determination that I need to achieve something. And hard work, not only determination. Determination is a kind of desire, the kind of objective, the kind of aim, but you must have hard work. Continuously, you must do something. Now, if you determine like that, lot of gadgets are available in your hand, lot of resources are available. Please make use of all these resources. Try to inculcate some of the great qualities of the great personalities like Mokshaguna Visvesvaraya Garu. So, resources, honesty, determination, commitment, and also inculcating the qualities of great people like Visvesvaraya Garu will also make some of you to become like the greatest legendary engineer, unforgettable engineer, Sir Mokshaguna Visvesvaraya Garu. So with these few words, I once again thank Robert Ravi Garu and also our Academy President Venkateswara Garu, Vice President Raji Garu, and Secretary Lakshman Rao Garu, along with the thousands of students who joined online, along with my colleagues, to make these Engineers Day celebrations 2020 a grand success. Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, sir, for your words on the occasion, inspiring the young minds. May I now request Sri N. Venkateswara Garu, President, Siddhartha Academy of General and Technical Education, to give message on this occasion. Welcome you, sir.
Okay.
Sir, 1 second, sir. He's in a call. He will be addressing, sir. Sir, he's in a call. He will be addressing in a couple of minutes, sir. Just 2 minutes. Everybody's on here, sir.
Who got all on the line? Good morning. Ratnaprasad garu, Raji garu, Lakshman Rao, Padmaja garu. I'm happy to participate on this very happy occasion of Engineers Day, particularly on the birthday of Sir Ramagundam Visvesvaraya. As our principal has already informed, he is a great engineer, a pioneer engineer in this country, and made several new projects. At the time when there was no so much of technology is not available as it is available today. It also indicates its intention to do. I want to do this project. This project is required for the people of this country. With that intention in mind, he has done it, whether technology is there or not. But unfortunately now, we have so much technology available, but what are the projects that we are taking up? We are not at all thinking in that direction. I think it's high time when we are celebrating such a great man's birthday, at least today we have to take a decision to the memory of this great man. One of our professors or our students have to take a challenge and start an industry that is useful to the people of this area, this country. I think that is the greatest homage that we are giving to this great engineer. In spite of the fact that we have engineering college in 1975 and turned out so many, too many engineers, but very few have done such a world ranking, forget about it, at least national ranking projects, innovative projects. Why we are not able to do? This is a thought I wish that I have to put into the minds of the students and also minds of the professors and teachers. Can I say that is it lack of motivation from the professors? Or the students are not taking the initiative to do something? But Andhra Pradesh is known for the talent and potentiality. Only thing is we are not making an effort. We are not making an attempt. Otherwise, undoubtedly we can bring out some new projects which are useful to the people of this area, also to the people of this state and nation. So I wish at least on this day, when we are celebrating in commemoration of Sir Visvesvaraya garu, Mokshagunam Visvesvaraya garu, let our young people do something that is recognized and identified and appreciated by the country as our Mokshagunam Visvesvaraya garu does that. Good luck. Thank you. We cannot?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir, for your words on the occasion. we definitely try to work towards it and see that we bring laurels to our institution. Thank you very much, sir. I now request Ms. Sarada Devi, Assistant Professor, EC Department, to give the brief introduction to the chief guest of today's function, Mr. A. Ravi Garu.
Good morning, everyone. Each letter in the word engineer has its own meaning. Eager, non-stop learning, genius, intelligent, nation's builder, effort maker, excellent, and rider. Each of which truly can be given to none other than Sri Robert Ravi, who kindly accepted to be our chief guest today. I am extremely honored to introduce the chief guest of today's function to all of you. Robert Ravi ITS studied electronics engineering and is a first rank holder from Pondicherry University and also possesses a degree in MBA International Business from the same university. He designed and implemented the Integrated Communications Network project for FTTN, Wi-Fi, WLAN, VoIP, etc. for Pondicherry University and PSWAN project for the Pondicherry government. He worked as Chief Engineer, Telecommunications Consultant India Limited and was engaged in the design and implementation of various projects in broadband communication systems. Being Chief Consultant for the Broadband Development in Kuwait project, he designed and implemented the fiber to home broadband system, the first OTN, the largest FTTD in the East Middle at Kuwait. He was a consultant for Transit Systems USA, where he helped for the implementation of e-governance project in Kuwait and acted as a lead consultant for revitalization of the telecom services in Libya and Lebanon. He delivered lectures and presented papers on duct layouts for broadband developments in metros at Chicago, USA, and on broadband development at Africa and BICCI, Dubai. He published a number of papers on communication systems using TCP/IP, telephony from space, neural networks, AI for fraud detection techniques in switches, and whatnot, many. He installed and commissioned the first OCB, AXE, EWSD systems in Tamil Nadu Circle for the Department of Telecommunications. He started his services as Additional General Manager, Bharat Sanchar Nigam Limited in 2005 and moved as an advisor to Telecom Regulatory Authority of India in 2011, where he delivered his services for the quality of services in telecom, consumer services, and technological developments till 2016. He was then appointed as Senior Advisor to the Ministry of ICT, Government of Uganda from 2016 till 2019. Since 2019, he has been working as Deputy General Manager, Deputy Director General, Department of Telecommunications, Ministry of Communications and IT, India. Sir, we will ever remain grateful to you and raise our hands in gratitude and are really thankful for taking the time out of your busy schedule to spare it for us. Thank you.
Thank you for this introduction.
Respected. On the behalf of our college, VR Siddharth Engineering College, we welcome you to address our students and faculty. And this is the most awaiting moment of today's function. Please take the mic, sir.
Thank you. Respected Sri Venkateswarar, President, Sri Lakshmana Rao, Secretary, Rajaya, Vice President, and Principal of the college, Dr. Ratna Prasad. It's a great pleasure for me to address and interact with the students of Siddhartha Engineering College today on the occasion of the 53rd Engineers Day celebration. I'd like to greet the students, the faculty members, the staff, the young engineers, distinguished guests, and the special invitees today. Today I thought I would like to share my thought on the topic, how can we change the challenges into opportunities, especially in the post-COVID scenario, with the how the role of engineers could play a vital role. As we have seen that the COVID-19 has become a wake-up call, highlighting the urgency to look at everything in a different way. On one hand, we can see the crisis is coming up, but the mitigation of the crisis in the beginning was only because of technology. and technology became the new language of the world, and that is changing our lives today. So the world today actually needs more technology education than before. So we require to mix and match what we have competence in science and technology and competence in language. So that leads to what we have completely a new era. What we need, we call reinvention, reimagination. Maybe we might be trying to invent and imagine in a particular direction. COVID has put us a break and ask us to think what new we should reinvent and what new we should reimagine. And that throws up a grand challenge also. Now, as engineers, we need to work to find solutions to various different problems. There are big problems. This is the right time. Can we not bring up some solution for climate change, agriculture, health, education, etc.? And the scenario, the curriculum, the teaching, everything of the engineering colleges is going to go a sea change because of this COVID. So innovation in engineering education, because once you want to create jobs for graduates, unless you create opportunities for innovation, it's not going to happen. Especially now, fortunately, we have technology growing, like the advent of data sciences, AI, etc. So can we not use this opportunity as an advantage for us? That's the thing which we need to really think through. Now, just to talk about a small experience of myself, what we did in AP itself. In the initial days of how effectively we wanted to mitigate COVID, we started tracking of the infected persons, and then we automatically found where these persons were moved around in and spent more than 15 minutes in any particular time. And then automatically we tagged the people nearby, and then the district officials used to go to the particular place, sanitize the area, inform the people that there's a prone area of COVID, and we were able to even create population densities and risk zones for which also we can create. Incidentally, we even created the quarantine system also, which of course got the best emerging response system during disaster time recently. So what this quarantine system is that whenever a person moves out, a quarantine person moves out, an alarm goes to the district officers who come and they interact, and they say that the people are kept in a proper quarantine environment so that the violation is not there. This actually brought into some new technologies of virtualization. We actually virtualized the entire telecom network, and we created pigeonholes to more effectively manage where the risk is coming. We created national digital twin network with so many sensors available. Can we not create a complete digital twin network which actually virtualizes the network and foresees what is going to happen rather than we put it on the field? These are the new areas which engineers we need to really come up. So the problem behind us is a big problem solving mindset is required today. As engineers, we need to be fast in taking decisions today, develop our mindset so that we solve big problems more effectively. This, fortunately, can we not create these challenges into opportunities, new areas of working? Because engineering, by definition itself, is the application of scientific principles to solve your problems. Engineering education has to evolve to reflect these contemporary problems. Not only we need to integrate with pure sciences, we need to integrate better with humanities, with social sciences, etc. So now we can see that we need to add a touch of humanity into the technology also. Unless then your real the technological worth does not reach to the people. So in this process of reimagination, you need to inculcate as a maker, as an innovator, as an entrepreneur mindset among engineers. Because not only that you need to innovate, probably with the government is coming up with a number of schemes. We are trying to be self-reliant on making products within the country. We have a lot of fiscal advantages has been given to various organizations in research and development. We are even funding programs, innovative programs that can take the country forward, especially in the area of data sciences, big data analytics, AI, etc. So the if you see, look at what is going to happen to COVID. The COVID is going to be around for maybe another a few years, maybe 1 or 2 years. And every organization, the key thing is transforming digitally. Today, you see that we are addressing sitting in our own offices. We are not addressing in an audience or a group, which we used to do a few months back. So the complete scenario has completely changed. Now we are moving into what we call completely a digital oriented. Every organization is moving digitally. So this is already started happening. But what is going to happen in the months to come, in the next few years, this growth is going to grow exponentially. So as engineers, can you not start thinking in any one of the area of digital thing, even including your web, your conferencing system, or a more apt automated project monitoring mechanism, or in the field of medicine, how can we invent new ideas, new thought process? Can we not start thinking small today, which will help in actually innovate and build as you go along, learning towards the learning curve. Now, because of this also, not only India, the world also requires a lot of graduates who not only understand science and technology, but they should be able to navigate this new world more effectively. Now, until the vaccines are going to come, this pandemic is going to be around us. But that should not allow the economy to be affected in a way. Can we not use technologies, develop areas which will help the people simultaneously to grow in a completely different area? So that is where what we call the premium of the technology talent is coming. That is going to become higher and higher. So every engineer will become more employable when he inculcates such experiences of premium in technology talent. However, as graduates, you need to fundamentally have different competencies. You need to completely educate yourself, not in a particular area. Now, because now you see there is a complete cross-discipline information. Say, for example, you take drone technology. In the current conditions, as I was mentioning, we have a couple of projects on AI. One such project is in the health system of malaria eradication, where we are trying to use drones to a greater extent, where automated drones can go and sprinkle pesticides in water stagnated areas. Even the simple drone technology is a mix of different disciplines of engineering, the mechanical, the electronics, the computers, etc. So the graduates need to have a broad-based understanding, studying contemporary technologies, and not only the technologies, and what is required for the society. That is also required. Alongside, we need to have a very clear mindset that we need to deal with sudden uncertainties, like what happened in COVID. Suppose something uncertain comes, how do we deal with it? That will help you to innovate, to self-reflect, and then collaborate effectively with your entire team. Now, this pandemic has taught us one very, very important field is the medicine. We can see how strained we are in the medical field, with doctors and the hospitals being overwhelmed because of the pandemic. So there is a need to invent new technological methods. For example, even when I was in the earlier assignment of Uganda, we used to encourage innovation in the medical, because African countries were really lacking a lot in the medical field. So we started operating remote use of medical. So that is the need of the hour. Can we not invent some sort of a non-invasive blood test happening for the non-invasive kidney test? For example, in the COVID scenario itself, there are different areas of testing. You know, the testing of the swabs and the blood samples itself is a different methods. Though there are different technologies available, we need to come with a reassured different optional technologies that could easily assist the society at large. But one of the pleasing benefits, what has happened is, we are able to have frequent scalable meetings. Like if you can see, we will never have some sort of, I think there are more than 500 participants today, online meetings with Teams, Zoom, with all combinations of question and answer sessions, etc. Maybe an Indianized version of this. Somebody can come up with an Indianized version of the complete thing Can it be made workable? Because with all plug and play models available today, can we not develop one such system? That's also which is going to be, because at least for the next few years, such online systems is going to be the main ploy, actually. So can we not assure the formats of the staff is going to regard the universities? Because what is happening is, we need to, as teachers and professors and lecturers are very aware, interaction with students is a bit complex. They are idiosyncratic, study pathways, they need individualized attention. So can we not develop an Indianized version of a Team or a Zoom which takes care of these benefits? And of course, as we have seen in the last few months, this COVID has led to a number of significant innovation happening in many universities across. Demanding the process, the timeline, and academic field, in medicine field, in education field, in agriculture also, because there also we have other issues. How do we compact, etc. So innovation is the need of the hour. So we need to bring in, if required, more courses that gives more agility and capacity. Of course, from DOT, we had also been in touch with various engineering colleges, where we can even support the students to come up with new ideas, innovative ideas. Can we not start up a lot of centers of excellence, say on AI and data analytics? Now, with a lot of data flowing in the cloud, I was during the pandemic, during March to May, most of the data centers, for example, the Microsoft Azure or the Amazon's cloud, most of the data centers which were just occupied 35% or 20% were overwhelming with more than 90% occupancy during these last 6 months, with the increased premium of these cloud resources. So there is really a need of the hour to actually permit the degree of what we call flexible future thinking, so that you build a resilience building mechanism that not only iterates and reimagine, you need to reimagine the future, and then you create sustainable technologies for the good of the people. Of course, there are a lot of alternative. So for every field, I would request the students to give more concentration essentially on the 4 critical fields: the education, the agriculture, the financial, and the medicine. These are the 4 clear areas which require real inputs in innovative measures. That needs to be growth, that needs growth to come in that will benefit the society. As you are well aware, today we are having most of the classes in various schools, colleges, online. Can we not develop a more content-oriented, content-driven mechanism type of some innovative way of teaching students? If you take the case of medicine, which I mentioned, more is required. Of course, we have started with some, but still more is required on telemedicine, e-medicine, where even remote centers could be effectively will become diagnostic labs today. Today, even if you take the percentage of testing that is happening, is far, far less in terms of the per million population when compared to some of the advanced countries. So can we not bring up such technologies essentially? And the most important one is the financial sector. Can we not leverage the technology to ensure there is a proper financial play in the entire field? All this has driven to what we call knowledge economy. Now, we were seeing globally, economy is really in a deep crisis, a problem. One way of coming out of the economy, though there is a financial aspect involved, the other very important support system for this economy to really come up after the post-COVID scenario is what we have, the knowledge economy. The knowledge economy which can easily take us to the next level of revolution, the 4th industrial revolution, and it will lead to explosive ways of thinking. What it does is the objective of the society changes from what we have today, the basic needs, to all-round development and empowerment of every citizen. So every citizen will try to find out ways by which he becomes economically independent through knowledge economy. The education system, the universities, the engineering colleges play a vital role in this. They need to promote what we call creative, interactive self-learning, formal, informal, with focus of values. Because if you see, with more amount of online courses happening, the students are having enough time where they can concentrate on other activities. Can they not do interactive self-learning on a specific subject, AI, big data analytic, or robotics, fourth industrial revolution, cognitive analysis, neural networks, quantum computing? These are the areas that is fast coming up. Can we not groom up our people in these areas? As students, you need to also think about it. From the worker side, today you see, because of this COVID, of this physical distancing, or the what we call the so-called social distancing managed in factories, industries, the culture of workers being used as unskilled is slowly going away. Even at the worker level is becoming skilled or semi-skilled, with knowledgeable, self-empowered, and flexible skilled, driven by social distancing. That's what is happening everywhere, which means this slowly leads to what we say when we are talking about the fourth industrial revolution. This post-COVID has accelerated our way of achieving the smart manufacturing, the smart industries, leading towards the fourth industrial revolution, which is a very, very important thing that's going to come in the near future. So the type of work, instead of being structured, hardware-driven, physically underground, is now becoming less of structured and more of software-driven. Even in the telecom scenario, I can give you an example. We are moving towards what we say is, today you might have seen the BTS and the towers, the BSCs and the MSCs. We are moving towards what we call a complete virtualization platform, wherein I can create spaces for all operators. So there's the same equipment can act as a BTS or BSC for X operator, Y operator, different periods of time. So it's completely driving towards what we call the software-defined radios. Not only that, even the management style is also will undergo a drastic change. It will become more of a delegation rather than giving command, because it is the people who are going to be the ground level will also have to take decisions on their own. This is going to have a greater impact in environment, in ecology, that will have a striking comparison to the industrial economy. Now, my dear students, please visualize. The economy is really shaken today. There are only a few pillars can really bring up the economy to a stable level. One pillar is which I taught about, the knowledge economy. The other very important pillar is the industrial economy, apart from the agricultural economy. Agricultural economy is one of the pillars today which is already giving us support. If you are able to give us support through the industrial economy with innovative technological ideas, that's going to be really change the way India is today, maybe leading the countries. Today, if you see, fortunately, most of the developed countries are also in the same play as the developing countries. US is not much far away than what India is today in terms of after this COVID issues. So if the country that takes the right decision, the right push with innovative thinking and technology will easily leapfrog and become leaders to the world. Can you not be a driving force to such economy, which will be driven mainly by knowledge and knowledge-driven industry? So the message is that the young in the organization, whatever your specialization is, you need to train yourself to have a proper system approach, a proper project, which will help you to prepare once you have a problem in your hand, you need to come up with new products, new innovation, and you should be able to undertake higher organizational responsibilities. Friends, you need to really acquire the knowledge in an integrated way today. As I told you, a cross-discipline way. You need to do it in an integrated way. You need to use multiple disciplines for any product development and its management. That will be a successful one. We, from the government, we are ready to support the educational institutions and in various ways through funding, even handholding, or even knowledge sharing, etc. Where we wanted to come up with new areas. So we can run an hackathon, we can run an ideathon, so that students come out with ideas, fix an idea, fix an area of interest, and that group works only on that area, so that you become a complete product development. From the product development to its management is being taken care of these centers of excellence. Next very important thing, this COVID has really thrashed a lot of development patterns and the dynamics of connectivity between nations, especially the trade and business. Of course, there are still some countries which try to make some money in this scenario also, but still on the longer end, the dynamics between them and what connects these countries is that the developed country has to market their product in a competitive way to different countries, and the other developing countries should get themselves transformed into a developed country, so that they also can market this product to other countries in a competitive way. If you see both the thing, the very, very important common factor is competitiveness. So the competitiveness has become a very common factor for both the types of countries, both the developing and the developed. But very, very important, when you try to think and develop such product development, you need to see essentially the three dimensions of a product management. How the quality of the product, the cost effectiveness, how effective the cost is, and the supply and time. So these are the three you need to keep in mind when you start developing products. This leads into what we call the dynamics of competitiveness. That is what we call a law of development. What is this law of development? I can give you an example from the telecom side, the law of development. The time has come where we have to launch new technology to improve connectivity. Today, you see, even in telecom, though we have 1.2 billion mobile phone connections nationally, still we have more than 600,000 villages where 60,000, 70% of the population in these slides are still not connected by high-speed internet connectivity. Because you know, as technology changes, high speed is the need of the hour. Of course, the government has come up with a clear 1,000-day program where all villages are going to be fiberized in the next 1,000 years. That's going to be a real umbrella innovative area where a lot of innovations can happen, a lot of technologies can happen to ensure that our villages are connected properly on an high-speed internet connectivity. Today, of course, to just give an example of the technological advancement that has happened, using a single strand of a fiber, today we have technologies that can drive up to 225 terabits per second. Dear friends, if you see on the global comparison, India is today ranked around 109 in the world in broadband speed, and our average speed is only 9 M when compared to 40 M of the developed countries. The government's aim is to bridge this gap. Even the global average broadband speed is 11 MB, which we need to achieve. And even when you see of the fiber, we have roughly around 30 million fiber kilometer laid the last 1 decade. We are connecting cities, districts, etc. But we still need to connect more than 600,000 villages and cities. So we may be requiring to lay another 400 million fiber. That's going to be a huge challenge. So the challenge of really realizing what we call the digital India, our self-reliant production, our own development of local products, Make in India program, etc., depends on developing such infrastructure, and for which the government has already given a deadline. So that are one of the small areas where we can come up with a lot of ideas. Now, fortunately, this has also created us a world of opportunities. Now, ICT is becoming a basic tool for survival in the country. It is also helping in enhancing the efficiency and transparency, not only in government, in private sector also. It has started to become a measure of the development. It can definitely help in mitigating all the problems of social communication. It can completely revolutionize the way how people think, how they communicate, how do they have fun, do business, do work, study, etc. Can we not use this world of opportunities in various areas? Like, for example, Can we not use them in monitoring crime, in area of health telemedicine, e-medicine, international consultation programs, education, agriculture, farming, data collection mechanism? We are even thinking of having some sort of data controllers being set up where data privacy is protected and controlled at a central place. Can we not help this to improve productivity, innovation, and entrepreneurship? This is some of the world of opportunities for us, because the innovation is a really area which is required for students. Even in a small way, if you start thinking about small innovations, can easily build up. So that adds to our in global innovation index also. So what is the plan to succeed? There could be various plans. The government is coming up with certain plans, and the state governments are having some plans. This can even inculcate to each developer, each inventor, each student to put his own roadmap. What could he or she play a role in the development of the society in the next 10 years? Can we not address any of the key issues today we have in infrastructure, policy support, access to ICT, capacity development, collaboration with among our various agencies? Can we not develop some sort of a common access delivery mechanism for the for delivery of services and participative access? And can we not define new digital initiatives how to be implemented? Help out in realigning, integrating various initiatives. Develop mechanism that reduces the cost of implementation by effectively optimizing these resources, and drive all industries towards to facilitate e-content. As you know that all the industry sector is moving online. All structure is going to run online in the next few years. This has a huge growth for developing e-content. E-content development in the local language, local area could also be a very important area of which people can think about. And can we not develop mechanism for cybersecurity, data protection, so that you win the trust and confidence of the consumers? And how do we have a common setup, protocols, standardization, development, so that the various systems could effectively integrate among themselves? All this will help you to create jobs, create knowledge. You yourself can even become an entrepreneurship, because the government will support you with seed money. You'll have a lot of angel investments in the country to come and develop once you have an idea to take the idea forward. This can help inspire innovation, help local manufacturing. Even you can have small local, even universities and engineering colleges could become centers of excellence of various of activity, where small development happens, which can be taken as a pilot for manufacturing or product development at a later stage. And they can promote and open up even app market. App market is a huge industry for the software industry. Anything requires to develop a small app. Can we not have a complete app-based market? So these are some of the areas. I would also like to touch upon a very important area that is affecting human lives today, and then it is creating a huge impact in human life. What is that? Artificial intelligence. As you are aware, artificial intelligence can enhance our human endeavor by complementing what people can do. Whatever you are able to do, it can augment it. So an amalgamated team of human plus algorithm will become the norm that can sort all pursuits supported by AI. For example, doctors will be augmented with abilities to spot cancers. Maybe using augmented reality and virtual reality, doctors could even able to spot where the cancers in these medical images. Speech recognition algorithms that could run on smartphones will bring internet actually to the rural population, where language barrier is completely removed. There are various apps that does doing it. Maybe we can even think of developing some app. Digital assistance can help, because today the problem, the impediment for development in the rural area is mainly because of assistant. They're having a problem in how do they access the information? Can we not develop very simple digital assistants, chatbots that help the local people in their local language to help them out? Image classification algorithms, wearable computers. These are some of the area which is becoming a huge impact. Added to this in technology, going on the more VLSI technology base, in theory, what are you trying to do? You're transferring information at the speed of light. So such devices can let AI algorithms run faster and faster than today's best AI chips available. So the speed of this leads to another, what we say, a new area of chip development. That is what we call optical chips, where the switching on and off of the transistor is using optical. So optical chips will depend on how quickly it can interact with conventional components like a computer's memory. So this actually leads to another new area that is coming up, the progress of VLSI technology. The complete shift from design of the VLSI chips to what we call ULSI, ultra large scale integrated system, that completely uses the use of design automation becomes a necessity. So these development of computer aided programs help significantly to automate the entire VLSI design. Each tool were able to solve different stages of task design more effectively. However, when we integrate it, these CAD programs can really play a major role. What we have to do is, to overcome this problem, researchers needs to really introduce AI techniques in even your VLSI design automation. So even designing of chip, also we can use AI. So that leads again to the same famous knowledge-based expert systems into AI techniques that will try to not only define the problem, it will help you choose the best solution from various possible designs. I will not go much into the AI stuff, but I can just give you a small flavor of where this AI is really helping the people today. This is one area. Like for example, the AI strategies could really help in accelerating the progress of your SDG groups, the Sustainable Development Goals of UN. It can help in fight hunger, mitigate climate change, and advancement in healthcare. For example, I can quickly say, during my previous assignment in Uganda, the Ebola used to be a big challenge. The outbreak of Ebola every time leads to death of many people. We used AI pattern to automatically calculate the symptoms that is happening in the border areas of Uganda and Congo. And then we were able to predict well in time, maybe 2 months before, that there is going to be a possible outbreak of Ebola happening. And it really helped in saving millions of lives in that particular area. Hunger. What we did was we tried to completely do a 3D mapping of the entire area in the daytime and the nighttime. Today, you know that we have a lot of satellites, and even our IOSORO is providing you sufficient maps. If any institutions or technology institutions are willing to do a big data analytic of these maps, you can have a lot of analysis being done. These maps of the daytime map and the nighttime map will give you an area about the harvest pattern, the number of crop growing pattern, and it will clearly say which area is producing more, which area is producing less. Then I balance the transportation from area A to area B, and I can help in mitigating hunger. So simple fighting hunger, fighting poverty. Now, friends, there is a prediction more than 600 million people are going to be pushed into poverty because of this COVID crisis. There is a need to see that this technology, how effectively is going to help the people in fighting hunger, in health, etc. And there are a lot of experiments in improving disease outbreaks, as I just mentioned, and it actually changes occupation, the sectoral dynamics, because any sector, complete dynamic changes when you have a data analytic done. It can aggregate its productivity and look at the benefit and challenges that it produces at large. If you use proper planning and proper use of this AI in every sector, friends, I would request each one of you to look at one sector. As I mentioned, the 4 key sectors of health, agriculture, any of these sectors, look at it and see how AI can be used to leapfrog and increase the per capita income levels of the society, decrease the price of capital that our AI-based technological changes brings about. And we have indirectly served and helped the society in mitigating the after effects of this COVID in a crashing economy. Understanding these capabilities will also require a lot of innovation, technology policies, so that will help in creation of new jobs, new entrepreneurship. You yourself can come up, start a small product development through your university and then run it over as an enterprise in the long run. Understanding, and then there are a lot of advancements happening in AI, especially the robots, and even I can say in Uganda and Rwanda in countries, we were using drones for transmission of emergency blood in the remote areas. So the drones along with artificial intelligence or robotics have played a very major role in saving a lot of lives of the people. The amount of data, the information, the knowledge that is available with the humanity, the data itself is so huge. It is roughly doubling every 2 years. So the analog, the linear economy, what we talk about, friends, as the post-COVID unfolds itself in the few years, the analog and the linear economy of this last century will completely become what we completely a different governance structure, doing away with the physical infrastructure. And as I already told, that there is a prediction of the hunger coming in. More than 1 billion people are going, not because they're going to become hungry, not because there is going to be a shortage in the food supply. As you know, there is enough rain and your food supply is sufficient, but the distribution pattern suffers. Can we not have technology to solve this global crisis where it becomes the food supply is properly distributed so that no person is actually hungry. So that requires what we have to have a leapfrogging of possible changed mindsets into what we call exponential mindsettings. Can we not use these AI tools to really use a big real-time data analysis? Suppose even can we not develop a small tool which will help into search into different vacancies, different job searches, and allow the this platform for help connect the jobs with the people, which is already there. Now, can we not use an Indianized version? That is one area which we can think about. The skill set changes. The AI changes the task, the skills, the knowledge, the content of the job completely changes. Now, AI, along with digitalization, completely is changing even the way of learning. Now, even on a 5G network, which I mentioned, we are moving into what the TFE, Total Virtualization Network. We are moving into complete big data analytic and machine learning algorithms. And in health, I already mentioned, a lot of technologies of AI could be used, like skin disease recognition, diagnostic applications, etc., where you can build a small app in your smartphone, which could help in evaluate and create symptom questions. If a user just gives these questions and the answers to the question of the symptom, a probable diagnostic could happen for any of the diseases. Then he can go on a telemedicine and get himself tested, which is all an automatic identification of what we call a structured, normalized data for AI. Other very important thing on the agriculture sector, you know, the farmers today spend more than 50% of the money only in herbicides and pesticides. Again, going back to my African experience at Gamaya, what we were trying to do was we tried to give more targeted, automated combating threats to the crop, which means, as I told you, friends, today all the data is available with the government, with other agencies. The need of the hour is people need to come up with different ideas for analytics. Again, going back to this ISO geospatial maps, somebody can take these maps and then automate and then see what is the probable threat in which area, which crops is going to come. And then we can even create a system of an SMS where these targeted crops area you send an SMS or the broadcast message to these farmers to give what we say targeted pesticides. So, for example, weeding out the weeds in the field, that is another very important. Instead of weeding out the complete crop, can we not isolate the weeds? So this helps into improving the crop nutrients, etc. So technology could be really put into place a lot of way to help the farmers. Another very interesting way is, I told, can we not combine satellite image with machine learning to predict the poverty levels, especially the nighttime maps given with the high resolution daytime maps, and then we can even see what is going to be the variation in the economic outcomes at these levels. Anyway, these are the lot of things that is going on. The AI stuff itself, it teaches us a lot of important things. AI thrives performing precisely the work which is not repetitive, which is repetitive, non-social, and uncreative. All these works could easily be pushed. Of course, what I perceive is, in the long run, we're going to have two different models of the Chinese AI model and the Indian AI model. The Chinese were the most of the hardware-based AI model, whereas we should try to move into the innovative software-based AI model. So again, that both is left to a lot of comparisons for another day. Just I thought I should give a flavor of how AI really plays a role. So in short, to sum up, the AI is going to enable the animation of the physical world. It is going to enable the physical and natural assets. It is going to enable the machines, the physical and the natural infrastructures to interact among themselves into a more creative real-time scenario. You're going to see more of smart contracts. We are going to have distributed ledger mechanism on blockchain for real economy assets, infrastructure, processes. Blockchain could solve the problem of trust, because the blockchain is having information at different places. So the problem of security and trust is solved to a greater extent because the information is asymmetric and the economics of small transactions is there, while eliminating the requirement of costly, complex infrastructure requirement. Going into, in India also, we wanted to develop what we call an India-specific AI stack. Already we have floated the request. We have developed the AI stack model. What is required to have this AI developed in the country, and it is already out. I request the faculty and the students along with the team to study this stack model and even give your comments, because this is going to be the final stack that is going to govern for the country. It's going to be the AI stack, India-specific AI stack. I'd love to share it, but of course it's available on our website for download also. You can give your feedback on it. The next very interesting thing towards the fourth AI is coming is your industrial revolution, which I already mentioned. The COVID has fast-tracked our industrial revolution. That actually the fundamental change in the way in which the goods are produced, delivered, and consumed. Of course, it is going to be a convergence of AI, robotics, IoT, quantum, nano, biotech, 3D printing. I'll give you a very, very interesting example. Even in the COVID case test, today we have narrowed down with only 1 or 2 specific tests that is happening. Partly because there is no mass production of this at a large scale. Can we not use this innovative technology of 3D printing to develop use and throw mechanism types of testing kits, which is the one which people can start thinking and debating on it. This is going to have an unprecedented velocity and scope in almost every industry. This is going to create what we say a complete shift in power, shift in wealth, shift in knowledge. And that will lead to growth, ecosystem, and reduced infrastructure from what we used to have a hardware-based structure to a flexible structure. Functions bound for hardware to be flexible, hierarchy-based communication to be participant that can interact among people, and moreover, it becomes a network. So this actually, just to give a flavor of the technology is going to control it. You're going to have this augmented reality, virtual reality, 3D printing, advanced material analysis, automation, robotics, biotechnology, the blockchain, the distributed ledger, the geoengineering, the IoT, supercomputing, cloud computing, the quantum computing, AI, space technologies. These are the 12 technologies that is going to really spun growth in the next few years to come. With this, I would like to give a quick framework. What about the platform economy that was so long be grown? What we have the traditional value, the brick and mortar value of the shops is completely changed into what we have today, what we call a platform economy. Friends, each one of you could play a vital role, a spike in the platform economy wheel in whatever way is possible. You are like, for example, in globalization, workforce, freelancers, or it could be prosumers, producers and consumers, a niche market, sharing. It could be any of this mechanism. You can add spike to this so-called platform economy, which comes out of the knowledge economy. Of course, this will drive what we call the fourth generation, smart manufacturing, smart chain, smart buildings, etc. And the AI is going to really drive into every aspect of the society. To sum up, innovation is going to be the main play. AI and data analytics is going to play its vital role in every sector. If you have an idea, friends, start thinking of an idea, put it in development stage and then implement it. Work from home is going to become the big talk in years to come. Be it for the private sector, the government sector, the education institutions is going to be a big play. Can we make it more practicable, more energy, more efficient, more cost effective? How do you improve this? Through the use of artificial intelligence, through the use of augmented reality, through the use of virtual reality, the face recognition software. And in short, what you need to have is a big problem solving mindset that can help people alleviate the primary essence of poverty in this country. Creativity. In a knowledge society, we have to make innovations continuously, my friends. Innovation comes only through creativity. Creativity comes from beautiful minds. It can be from anywhere and any part of the world. It can start from a fisherman village, a farmer's household, a dairy farm, a cattle breeding industry, or it could emanate from classrooms, from labs, from industries, on R&D centers. So creativity is the mother of your innovation. Start thinking and creative. Friends, finally, as Dr. Kalam used to, I asked the same question to each one of you. What would you like to be remembered for? Each one of you should start thinking in Engineers Day today. Take a pledge. What would you like to be remembered for in years? You have to evolve yourself, shape your life. You should write it in a page. Take a piece of paper, write it in a page. That page may be very important page in the book of human history for years to come. And you will be remembered for creating that one page in the history of this nation, making the nation into a developed nation. Whether that page is the page of an invention, the page of innovation, the page of discovery, the page of creating societal changes, or a page of removing the poverty, alleviating poverty, or the page of finding new technologies in energy or astronomy, you would have made an impact to the society. Thank you for your patient listening, and happy Engineers Day.
So thank you very much, sir. In fact, we are all fortunate enough to have such a kind of chief guest today on the eve of this Engineers Day celebrations 2020. A man worthy of interacting with a lot of knowledge, skills, and also who has emphasized the importance of transformation in creativity, innovation, and also providing solutions to the challenges of society by improving industrial economy through the knowledge, skills resulting into creativity and innovation through various emerging technologies like automation, AI, robotics, machine learning, and so on. We are really fortunate enough, sir, that most of our students has got the very important direction to set forth what they need to do in the days to come. Being a engineering student, tomorrow they will be engineering graduates, how they need to perform to survive in this competitive world, with advanced technologies. So they need to develop, they need to get involved to develop interdisciplinary knowledge, interdisciplinary skills, resulting into some kind of solutions to the industry, society, for improving the economy of this Indian nation. Thank you once again, sir. Now I request Dr. M. Padmaja Garu to propose vote of thanks. In fact, in whatever areas you have mentioned and highlighted the importance, we have got certain expertise in the areas of those in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Information Technology, and Electronics and Communication Engineering, sir. Once again, of course, the situation may not permit now. Maybe in the days to come, in the near future, we will come to your office, sir. We will interact with you, the areas where we can collaborate and take up some projects. So we will involve some dedicated students and faculty to take some of our innovative ideas which are really required for the Department of Telecommunications to take forward, so that to come out with a certain kind of solutions in terms of product development and innovation, sir. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation and spending your valuable time in sharing your ideas and experience and expertise with our students and faculty. Thank you once again, sir.
It is our bound responsibility to propose vote of thanks. On the behalf of Velagapudi Ramakrishna Siddharth Engineering College, I extend my profound thanks to our chief guest, Dr. A. Robert Ravigaru, sir. What an immense ocean of knowledge you have got. Really, we were spellbound all the time, 40 minutes you spent with us. Hope really today we all of us and students are particularly very fortunate to get orientation in all the directions, what not everything you started with the definition of an engineer, and till you mentioned that what you would like to be in the future, in the how you want to be recognized in the future. You covered entire topic starting from artificial intelligence, machine learning, data security, analytics, what not, everything you connected. Really, we feel fortunate today to listen to you. You have a vast experience in the field of engineering, telecommunication, particularly myself and some of our faculty being from the EC department, we are very much connected to all the topics you mentioned. For your information, sir, for most of the courses you mentioned, topics you mentioned, we have programmed them as open electives, and these courses were offered across the departments. Whatever may be the department, they are given the opportunity to opt for any of the courses you have mentioned, which has significance in the coming time. Thank you very much, sir, for sparing your time, being with us, enlightening our students and the faculty and all of us. Thank you very much. I would like to thank our elderly figure, that N. Venkateswara Garu, President, Siddhartha Academy of General and Technical Education, for his concern towards the students' development and innovation and the motivation you have given, sir. Thank you for sparing your time and addressing the students and all of us. I would like to specially thank Dr. A.V. Ratnaprasad Garu, Principal, VR Siddhartha Engineering College, for his message about the achievements of Mokshagundam Visvesvaraya Garu. Not only that, for his constant stride to conduct such activities in the college. I would like to extend my thanks to Dr. P.V. Subbaya Garu, Head of the Department, ECE, for coming forward to organize this event today. Thank you very much, sir. And I would like to thank all the deans, head of the departments, faculty and students for being the part of the Engineers Day celebrations, online as well as offline. Especially, I would like to thank the Department of CSC, head being Dr. Rajeswara Garu, and the Department of IT, head Dr. M. Sunita Madam, for